Well, the upcoming schedule is presented by Metro by T-Mobile. Quick turnaround for Golden State to close out the Clippers on Friday night. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, both questionable for Game 1 this afternoon. Here's Steve Kerr.
He's okay. He and Steph both came in this morning to get some treatment, and I haven't even spoken with Rick yet today. So we're upstairs watching film and getting ready, and we'll see how they're doing tomorrow. I mean, I'm not going to make a definitive statement on whether they'll both play, or let's just call it questionable. And there's nothing implied there. It's just they both came in today and got some work, and we'll see how they're doing tomorrow.
Caron, Steve Kerr seems very concerned with this situation, doesn't he? No, not at all. So look, less than 48 hours between rounds 1 and 2 for the Warriors. Are you concerned at all with their health with the Splash Brothers?
I'm more concerned with Klay's situation than I am with Steph, because Steph had came back to the game and he had some moments where he wasn't favoring his ankle. But with Klay, it seems a little bit more severe. As you can see, again, look, that's tough, and he wasn't able to plant off of it, necessarily, and he hobbled off. So it's just something that you have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, I think that the health of these two guys is arguably the most important storyline, even though the series itself is a huge one. Everybody's been anticipating this matchup. But to see both guys potentially hobbled going into this first game with such a quick turnaround, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Easy money sniper. He averaged 42 points a game in the last 4 games against the Clippers. But where else does he need to be elite in this series against the Rockets?
I think defensively is where he could end up being the most valuable player for this Warriors team. In particular, if Klay Thompson is a little bit hobbled in terms of his lateral quickness and foot speed, being able to navigate screens, etc. on the defensive end with a sore ankle. I think Kevin's length, not just around the rim as we see there, but in pick and roll matchups with high hands and activity on the ball, late clock situations. We know the Rockets play at a little bit of a slower pace. Ball doesn't move as much. He can match up with Harden and Chris Paul, and I think that KD will need to be elite defensively in order for the Warriors to win.
I totally agree. He has to be elite defensively, and I think because of his merit and his statute of being a 2-time Finals MVP and the way that he's excelled in this game, one of the faces of the game, he's going to be able to play a little more physical, with James Harden and be in those spots. So he definitely has to be very efficient in that space.
So we understand KD has to be great on defense as well. Looking at the Rockets, Eric Gordon is known for being a guy that can have an offensive explosion outside of James Harden and Chris Paul, right? Yeah. Who else on this Rockets roster do you see, particularly on this list, not just with the scoring, but who will have the biggest role and the biggest impact in this series?
I mean, I would circle P.J. Tucker and Clint Capella as 2 names. Like you said, not just because of their scoring, but P.J. Tucker accepts the challenge defensively, and he typically ends up guarding anybody. He could end up on Durant. He could end up on Thompson. He's going to end up switched off on Steph Curry in screen roll. He does a great job on that end. Clint Capella is a guy that normally stays on the floor against the Warriors. Most teams have to take their bigs out when they play against the Warriors, not Houston. Capella can defend. He's active enough to stay out there. Those 2 guys jump out to me as guys that are going to need to have some breakout type nights in order to assist Gordon, Harden, and Paul in scoring.
I would have to say, Tucker and Green, I think they're going to have out-of-body performances, going to have out-of-body performances from the perimeter, because last season you seen that they didn't make perimeter shots. During stretches, no Chris Paul. Trevor Ariza was struggling from the field, and, it cost them pretty much the series and the opportunity to go to the finals. But also, Kenneth Faried, I think he's going to be extremely efficient and special. Pick and roll situation, play with high energy with that motor, and keep Bogut, active, moving around as much as possible.
One of the things we heard Kevin Durant say in round 1 is our energy wasn't right in certain games against the Clippers. Do you anticipate that being an issue against the Rockets, considering they face each other in the Western Conference Finals last year?
Absolutely not. I mean, look, everybody's antennas is up. The sense of urgency is there already. The Houston Rockets, went straight to San Francisco.
They're there.
They're there already. And you don't think that the Warriors got wind of that? Like, that's a situation where, it's a great opportunity. It's a great environment for basketball. This is what you live for, and they're ready. This will be a heck of a game.
And it varies at times, I think, throughout the series. Once the series starts, if the Warriors go out and win today and make it look easy, everybody's human. You have a tendency at that point, these guys can't beat us. And you let off the gas a little bit. All of a sudden, Rockets win game 2. It's 1-1 going to Houston. So that urgency sometimes can vary in the series. But I think showing up today, both teams are going to be at their highest levels.
We got one.
It's interesting you mentioned that gas in the tank because in the previous postseasons, we've known the reigning MVP, James Harden, has had issues. So much is made about Giannis's inability to make three-pointers, and rightfully so. How about this as part of the discussion? No. During the regular season, he led the NBA in and ones. He had 99 of those, 27 more than James Harden. He also took and made a career-high 52 three-pointers. So, Caron, should this be factored into the equation? We discuss Giannis's struggles from long range, the fact that he's able to create these old school three-point plays.
Man, that's an amazing stat. Big ups to you for coming up with that. I would have to say so. Me and Fish was just going back and forth off camera, just like, what is his free throw percentage for the season? That's amazing because
73%.
73% able to knock down the free throws, and that's what separates him from the pack. So it should equivalent to being able to hit a perimeter three.
And I think in addition to it, 73% free throw shooter, so he's making most of his free throws. But I think what it does for the Bucks is allow them to get their elite defense set. They're leading the postseason so far with 8.8 blocks per game. They shoot a high percentage from the field. And whenever Giannis can get out in transition and play at the pace that they like to play at, they're even more dangerous. So I think getting to the free throw line, the way he creates opportunities, it allows them to be even better than they already are.
And it makes sense that while his minutes are down, he's averaging career high in points and field goal percentage. So, Caron, for the Celtics, who did a very good job at defending him last year in the playoffs, what's their approach this year in the postseason?
Well, they're going to do it by committee, and you're going to see a wall built around Giannis. Look, no guy on that roster in the association can guard him man to man. But what you're going to see is, multiple people coming, and you're going to see Al Horford being the ultimate guy because he's able, from a physical standpoint, to kind of move and stick with him for the most part. But, like I said, it has to be done by committee. You have to take away a ton of real estate. You see 3 bodies right there in the pick and roll situation. Giannis, Al Horford, the designated defender on him. Try to make it difficult for him. Try to entice him to shoot jumpers instead of going downhill and being in that situation. And look, he's going to be in a mismatch situation for the most part because he's going to get pick and rolls. He's going to separate and get switch outs with guys like Kyrie and Jason Tatum and so on.
Fish, what we didn't see in that situation is something that the Bucks have become incredibly efficient at, and that's kicking out for three-point shots. They were second in the league in three-point makes per game. Will this series hinge on who defends the three-point shot better?
In my opinion, it will. I think both teams at times, when they're not shooting the three well, really have a hard time scoring. They don't move the scoreboard as much as other teams if the threes are not falling. As you see here, both teams defensively holding teams around 33%, which is a good number. But I think for the Bucks to be successful, they take a few more threes per game than the Celtics, and I think they're going to need to make a few more. I think in possession games, late clock, the Celtics have the advantage when you have guys like Kyrie and Tatum that can get their own shot at the rim or from the perimeter. So I think the Bucks need to really shoot the three well in order to win and take some threes away from the Celtics.
Last year in this series, it was Terry Rozier who had the signature play on Eric Bledsoe that we remember as being, wow, that's the moment. When you look at the guys in this series, outside of Giannis and Kyrie, we know those are the usual suspects. But who do you anticipate, maybe Gordon Hayward, maybe Eric Bledsoe, as being guys that can be that person to have the signature game or the signature moment in this series?
I mean, in my opinion, those are the two guys to watch. Gordon Hayward is starting to look like the Utah Jazz Gordon Hayward. He's getting more comfortable finishing at the basket. He's getting to those mid-range pull-ups that he was such an elite scorer at his entire career so far. Eric Bledsoe, to me, has been the X factor almost on every team that he's been on. He's the guy that can play at an elite level at times and then have some of those nights where he leaves some greatness on the court that he didn't access. And I think if he can play at a high level, take the challenge defensively on Kyrie, but also make timely shots, I think he can be a guy that can really secure the Bucks in this series. And we're going to need to see a couple breakout games from Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, I think Eric Bledsoe is going to, be the best possible version of himself. I feel like prior to this season, he had some goals, but now he's on the mission. And the ultimate mission is to win a championship. He's been rewarded a heavy payday. Again, blessed. He's in good health right now. And then he's re-energized and remotivated with that display last season in the playoffs, where Scary Terry came out and got the best of him. And as a competitor, that's my young boy right there. That was my rook. So as a competitor, I know he wants that moment back and that stage back, and what better stage to do it in the second round of the playoffs.
And one of the things that Milwaukee likes to do, they like to play fast, get up and down the court. How much of a factor will that be in this series if they can't set that pace or if they can set that pace?
It could arguably be the most important factor. The Bucks are better in transition because their best player is a guy that needs to get downhill. He's not a perimeter shooter. He's not going to beat you from the three-point line. So the more times, as you see there, the Bucks are in transition, the more possessions they have, they are going to be the better team. So it is important for the Bucks to defend at an elite level and get out into the open court and keep that pace really high throughout the entire series.
I haven't seen multiple situations where people have been successful in getting the Bucks in the half court and Giannis in the half court where you have all eyes and bodies in that wall where he can't really do too much. So like you touched on earlier, they don't have multiple guys that can go out there and create gamers like Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum, all that. You have guys that play extremely well off one another, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, certainly interesting. Two series starting this Sunday.